Hi, welcome to Criminology class, Sociology 322. Just want to cover a little bit of the syllabus. First, say welcome to class. Then also, I'm going to go over a little bit of the syllabus, the schedule, and a little bit of what's on Canvas. And so I'll try to make a post once a week, maybe not every week, but on most weeks anyway. Okay, so I'm Dr. Marina. You can call me Professor Marina, or you can drop all the fancy titles and just refer to me as Marina. That's perfectly fine. Um, Notice that I have office hours, and you can follow along with the syllabus right now if you'd like. But I have office hours from 11 to 12:30. I can do it in person or virtually, but don't necessarily expect me to be in my office. A lot of times I'll meet with students at the campus library. Um, Murphy Library or somewhere else on the campus. So always send me an email to schedule an appointment. Let me say that again. Always just email me to schedule an appointment. Very important. Email me, schedule an appointment, and I am available to you. We'll meet at a mutually convenient time. Um, Okay, and so I have other information like where my office is, 437K, Wimberley Hall, my websites that you can check out if you'd like. So everything that you need is there, including even my Zoom link. Take the time to read my course description if you get a chance. I have learning objectives there. Hopefully there's no problems with the books. There's two main books that we're reading for this class. One, the main textbook called Criminology. Notice that I have all of the notes for each one of those chapters already on Canvas. So as you read along, you can check out all those notes that are already there. Those notes will also serve as a really good study guide. So I highly encourage you to use those notes and to study those notes as you read the chapter. Very important. I think you'll be very successful in the class if you do this. And then your second book is Philippe Bourgeois. It's a wonderful book. He uses a lot of the theories. He critiques a lot of the theories that we're going to discuss through this class. It's an ethnography where you have a researcher, in this case, an anthropologist, um, who goes to Harlem so he can study inner city poverty. And that's when he came right into the heart of the crack epidemic. And so it's a beautiful book. It really uses the sociological imagination to understand crime. And so I purposely chose this book because I think it's a fascinating one. It's a good case of sociology and ethnography in the city. And it's really telling about crime and gives a very critical sociological perspective on understanding crime. So the book is called In Search of Respect, Selling Crack in El Barrio. And the recommended book is Jock Young, a friend of mine who passed away, but he probably wrote one of the best books ever in criminology called The Criminological Imagination. Anytime Jock Young would debate any criminologist in the world, they would shake in their boots because this dude was wicked smart, wicked critical, and he could think circles around just about anybody. He was one of my mentors in New York City, a guy I loved and very much admired. And so check it out. Anyway, there'll be sometimes outside readings for this class, and it's all going to be on Canvas anyway. And anything that we need to do, you'll just I'll have weekly. Every week, I'm going to have a weekly introduction on Canvas that outlines everything that we need to do. Although it's already all on the syllabus, you can check it out now. I'll give a reminder at the introduction of every week of everything that's expected of you. And again, I'll usually do most weeks with a video, either in the beginning or the end of the week. Check out, this is very important. Pay particular attention to the due dates. I mean, I have all the due dates already listed for you, and they're already on Canvas and they're already on all the assignments. Just make sure you pay attention to them. So unless mutually agreed upon before the due date because of some emergency or something that's going on in your life, all assignments, including exams, essays, discussion boards, or any other assignment, they will not be graded after the due date. Again, unless we agree to it beforehand. So just, let me know. Okay, check out the course requirements, evaluation and grading. 400 points possible for this class. You have a midterm exam that's worth 80 points. The discussion boards that I'll go over in a minute, they're worth 120 points, and your final paper is 200 points. And basically, Although you already have the instructions for your final paper, the final paper is where you talk about two or more theories. You can compare and contrast them. You can talk about their strengths and weaknesses. Um, really show your understanding of those theories, but also your ability to think creatively and in new ways about these theories in order to apply them to explain crime today. So that's your paper, pretty much two parts to show your understanding of theories and to go beyond the proverbial box and think creatively about those theories, and then apply them. Your second part, apply them to explain crime, and then the end of the paper will perhaps have a little bit of a policy analysis to talk about how do we ameliorate the problems of crime. Since we already know the causes of crime, how can we ameliorate the problems of crime? And so, um, anyway, the instructions are already there. Keep in mind now for your discussion boards, we have weekly discussion boards, 3 postings minimum for each discussion board per week, 1 original response that's due Thursday of the corresponding week, and 2 in-depth response to peers that are due Friday of the corresponding week. But make sure you check the schedule if there's any exceptions. But for the most part, original post due Thursday, 2 reply posts due Friday. Very important to note that the reply post should be just as critical and just as elaborate as the original post. So if you want all the points for the reply post, make them just as critical and just as elaborate. And remember, it's important for both original and reply posts to use, and again, take this seriously, to use stories and examples to illustrate all of your points and to substantiate your arguments. And that's how you'll get all the points for the discussion board. So please take that seriously. I even provided a rubric on the syllabus on how you're graded on discussion posts, including, again, your original and reply posts. So do please take that seriously. Um, Very important to remain critical and elaborate in all of your discussion posts, because that really stimulates good, I think, classroom discussions, and we're all going to benefit from that. Okay, I have other course requirements listed on the syllabus. You can kind of go through that on your own. Um, I have also on the syllabus the class paper and oral presentations. The last 2 weeks of class, we'll be doing oral presentations of you explaining the theories that you wanted to focus on, your ability, your understanding of them, your ability to think creatively about them, and then your ability to apply them to explain crime today, and then ending the paper with a bit of a policy analysis on how to solve or reduce the problem of crime in our society. Okay, and that takes us to the class schedule. Right now, we're doing our introduction. So make sure that you read my 2 lectures. Sometimes I'm going to have written lectures as well. So this week, we had 2 written lectures. Both of these happen to come from a book that I just published called Human Rights Policing, Reimagining Law Enforcement in the 21st Century. I just published about 2 or 3 months ago with Routledge Press. And so I also teach a human rights policing class. Also, a side note, I also offer, I created a certificate program at this university, and it's called Human Rights and Criminal Justice Certificate of Completion. And so you can do that along with your bachelor's degree. So I think any of you who are interested in working with kids, community organizations, or working in the criminal justice system, getting that type of certificate could really go a long way for you, and be a nice complement to your bachelor's degree. But nonetheless, check out crime and the sociological imagination. And there I break down how do we use the sociological imagination to understand crime? How do we look at crime from the perspective of a personal troubles perspective versus a structural issues perspective? And one of the things that you realize is that crime is not so much the result of individual pathology or personal troubles, but rather it's structural conditions, something that exists in the institutional arrangement of our society, something to do with institutional contradictions that create crime. In other words, crime is a symptom of a larger sickness in society. Crime is a symptom of structural contradictions that are going on at an institutional level. So as a result, treating the individual, whether it's through rehabilitation or punishment or jail or incarceration or anything like that, is almost entirely ineffectual and impotent to solve the problem of crime. Why? Because the problem of crime exists at an institutional level, which means that we need to change make societal change at a structural level in order to resolve the problem of crime. You can have a million cops and you can have a million cages. You can take those cops and you can throw them in millions of cages and it'll do nothing to solve the problem of crime. Again, police can't do anything to solve the problem of crime. Police have never been able to solve the problem of crime because police can't solve the problem of crime. Um, and so as a result, again, the problem of crime can only be resolved at an institutional or a structural level. And that's certainly that we'll talk about in one of our later theories, especially when we look at Robert Merton's social structure and anatomy theory, as well as the 1920s Chicago School ecological model that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. Okay. And then I also have a discussion on human agency versus determinism. This is a long age-old debate. Do we have any concept of free will? Which is more of a theological concept. In sociology, we use human agency to talk about our limited sense of free will, since our social positions in life and historical circumstances give us limitations. And so we have a sense of agency. So do we have any sense of agency, or are we completely determined beings? In other words, are we biologically and culturally determined and have no free will whatsoever? That we're human beings constantly in pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain, that we're nothing but slaves to our own instincts and there's nothing that we can do about it. And the idea of free will is nothing but an illusion. Or do we have free will? Do we have the ability to go against the biological forces and structural conditions that impinge themselves upon us? Can we go against the grain? Can we go against the great weight of social institutions exerting pressures on us, heavily shaping our behavior? Can we carve out a unique and individual biography? Can we spread our wings? Can we transcend the ordinary in highly unexpected ways simply through the use of our agency? And if we like to think of ourselves as having agency, well, then don't other people have agency as well, whether they're cops or criminals? So nonetheless, anyway, it's a good debate. And so we'll have a discussion board on that coming up. Then once we get into week 2, next week, we're really going to go through just some of the beginnings there, measuring crime. Can we even measure crime? And some of the origins of criminological theory from positivism, which suggests that people are completely determined that we have no free will, and that if we simply have enough data on people, we can simply predict their behavior, since human beings, in this view of positivism, human beings are just as determined as plants and fungus. Um, and so beginning chapters then talk about this classical school of sociology. And keep in mind that a lot of these classical theorists, they also thought that crime was related to like the shape of your skull or your body type. And if you really think about it, people still have very similar notions today, except it's not so much the shape of your skull or the criminal mind or any of that nonsense, or your body type, but rather still people, quite incorrectly, associate crime to the level of melanin in your skin, the type of hair you have, even like your ethnicity, your documentation, things like that. So even these old notions that are quite archaic still persist in the mainstream imagination today. Once we get into week 3, we get a lot more critical. We start thinking more sociologically. Robert Merton's social structure and anatomy, Durkheim's concept of anatomy, which is beautiful, general strain theory, all of that, very, very powerful. And then the 1920s ecology model. And so I'll have a written lecture on that. Then week 4, we get into more criminological theory, look into some subcultural theories, and then labeling theory. Of course, Howard Becker was very famous with labeling theory, and I've always liked labeling theory as well. Very powerful, very critical, kind of borrows from the lenses of symbolic interactionism and critical or conflict theory. And so I think it's some of the most compelling work out there in sociology. Then week 5, we'll have a special topic on trauma and transgression and a discussion board on that. And so I think you'll like that. I try to bring in some diversity and creativity into the class. And sometimes we'll respond from a documentary or video that we'll watch. So I think you'll like that. Week 6, social learning theory, control, and conflict. Again, this is more of this kind of critical perspective in sociology, and I'll have some interesting, I think, lessons for us and discussion board for us. And so I'll always try to keep the discussion boards creative and interesting, and bring in more nuance to the class and break things up so we're just not reading things and responding to it. And so I really put a lot of thought into this online class to make it, I think, exciting and interesting for you and not mundane. Do something kind of different all the time. Your first midterm exam will be in week 7. And that'll largely be multiple choice exams. Since most of your grading is writing and writing and writing, the multiple choice will be kind of more multiple choice. Week 8, you'll have spring break. Week 9, that's when we're gonna start reading Philippe Bourgeois' In Search of Respect. I'm sorry, yeah, In Search of Respect. Beautiful ethnography on crime in the city. I think you'll really like that. That'll foster some good discussion. So we'll do that. You'll have 2 weeks to read that book. Week 11, we're going to really talk about more special topics then. We're going to talk about the age of mass incarceration. And so that'll be a beautiful and interesting discussion board. Week 12, we'll talk about the problems of policing. Like I said, I just wrote a book on policing. I also train police officers in human rights around the world today. And so I have a plethora of knowledge to bring to that topic. I also come from a police family, by the way. My dad was a cop in New Orleans, a narcotics agent, and eventually a police lieutenant in the Vucare, otherwise known as the French Quarter of New Orleans. And so together we wrote a book on human rights policing. Okay, and then so that's week 12, problems of policing. Week 13 will be crimes against the earth. And so I'm still thinking of what we're gonna watch, and I had UWL buy some documentaries for us, so we'll check that out. But I think talking about crimes against the earth is very important. Really, in general, crimes of the powerful, crimes by the ruling class are far more dangerous when it comes to financial loss and killings than all the street crime in the world combined. So the last 2 weeks will be devoted to your oral presentations, applying some of the theories we've discussed in class to crime, and then your final paper will be Friday, May 5th. That's based on those presentations. Okay, let me take you through a little bit on the Canvas. You have so make sure you pay attention to Canvas. I'll send emails to you for any updates, but oftentimes I'll turn those emails into announcements that you can see in Canvas. So make sure that you check that out. Make sure in the introduction you check out the Welcome to Criminology online. Make sure you review that criminology syllabus carefully. You see the instructions and guidelines for your final paper already there. And if you've already started your discussion boards, and so I've been saying hi to everybody. Then week 1, introduction to criminology. You have the introduction. So every week it's going to have an introduction on a module. Then you have 2 of my lectures that I've just mentioned. And then you have your discussion board. And so pay attention to all that. I'll try to open up each weekly discussion board on Sunday. So pay attention to that. So weekly discussion boards open on Sunday. If you scroll down to the end of the Canvas right now, you'll see the chapter notes. Again, I have chapter notes for all the chapters. So make sure you follow those. And anytime you have a suggested reading, I'll just put that on Canvas. Other than that, I think everything is straightforward. Everything is highly structured. Anything you need to know, just send me an email. I'm around. And here's to a great and promising class. I'm very happy to have you all here. Some of you faces, or not faces, but names I recognize. And new people for the first time taking my class, welcome as well. Happy to have everybody here. And I think this will be an exciting online class. And I hope that these online videos make it a little bit better. Where you at least have something a little bit more personable. And so thank you, welcome, and look forward to a great semester. Y'all take care.